Okay, hi everyone. We're ready to begin. If I could just ask everyone to keep themselves on mute. I'll tell you what this class is going to be about in a moment. I first want to, of course, start by wishing Refuah Shelemah lechol cholei amo Yisrael, to all those who are suffering from this terrible disease, for all those in the hospital, for all those in difficult condition, and really for everyone, especially those in our community members, hachamim, rabbis in our community. B'ezrat Hashem elna refana lahem. They should have Refuah Shelemah b'mehera and see complete full recovery. Obviously, I think it's never too many reminders to remind everyone to keep safe, to watch their hands and their faces, to listen to, not take anything for granted, to listen to all the authorities. And you can't be too safe, obviously, as we're learning the hard way more and more every day. So, B'ezrat Hashem, let's keep it that way. Everyone's welcome to be on video. You can show your face if you want. You don't have to, but let's keep the audio off. So this class will have two parts to it. Part number one is going to be a halakha part, which I think is what it was originally intended to be. This class went through a bit of a transformation, not important. And we're going to talk about some of the preparatory halachot leading up to Pesach, but certainly some of the unique applications in this very different and trying time that we have in this crazy climate. And the second part of the class will be drasha, a little bit of a thought on the Haggadah, hopefully to inspire, hopefully to guide, and maybe it'll also segue into a modern application into what we're seeing right now and bring us into Pesach with a powerful concept and idea. Okay, so let's first start talking about what they titled this class, which I think is preparations for Pesach, something like that. But I want to talk about a few different categories of really important preparatory halachot that are always in play. But this year we have some challenges and some limitations and some differences. So I want to talk about those. Let's talk about checking. The reason why I want to talk about checking is because there are a lot of people that have questions today, this year, about places of business, and shuls and property that we have that we don't have access to anymore, second homes, things that we ordinarily might have been able to check and would have checked and can't check. So just to give you a little bit of a background, help understand why we might be allowed or not allowed to do certain things, especially this year. The Torah has commanded of us to not own chametz. And they command it in a positive and a negative. The positive commandment is called tashbitu se'od mibatechem, which means to rid of, to dispose of any chametz, not just from our house, but from any places of ownership that we have, be it residential, business, indoors, outdoors, etc. The negative command is lo yira'eh lecha chametz, and lo yimaseh lecha, known as bal yira'eh, bal yimaseh, the prohibition of owning any chametz on Pesach. The D'oraita, the Torah prohibition, would take the form of owning a kazait, an ounce, 27 grams of chametz. So how do we deal with getting around this issue? Well, there is, according to halakha, according to Shulchan Aruch, because there are different opinions, I'll give you the bottom line halakha. From the Torah perspective, there is one thing that you can and should do, and that's called bitul. Bitul means nullification, it means disowning, and it takes the form of a verbal proclamation. And that means that from the Torah perspective, anyone who simply proclaims that the chametz in my possession is hereby disowned by me, is no longer owned by me, is ownerless, I rest my hands free of any ownership, that is effective, that works, that counts, and that means you no longer own the chametz. It's called bitul, and we actually do this. We do this every single year, and it takes the form of an Aramaic statement called Kal Hamira. However, Hachamim intervened. Hachamim added to this means of fulfilling the mitzvah, avoiding the prohibition of owning and the mitzvah of ridding, by saying that it's not enough just to disown and therefore have physical hametz around you, because if you disown, even though it's all around you and you can see it, it's in your house, you're still good from the Torah's perspective. The Hachamim said, on top of that, we're going to ask you to do a bidika, a physical check, and upon finding anything on your physical check, do a bi'ud, which means physically ridding of it. And the reason for that is, firstly, and obviously, Hachamim were concerned that hametz in your possession, not officially in your possession, but in your surroundings, I might find it, pick it up, eat it. I'm exposed to doing a severe Torah prohibition, which is eating hametz, punishment of karet. And therefore, Hachamim said, we're not going to just let the bitul method suffice. Rather, we're going to ask also for bidika, bi'ud, checking and physically ridding of it. Also, because we're concerned that one might not be doing bitul, the proclamation of disowning with full heart. And therefore, they said, just in case, get it out of the house. So that's why we do what we do every single year at Pesach, the night of the 14th, the night before Pesach. We put the 10 pieces around and we go check and we rid of, and we say a Kal Hamira at night. The next morning, we say another Kal Hamira and we burn it. So we do that in our homes. We are supposed to be doing that outside our homes and the porches and backyards. We're supposed to be doing that in our cars. We're supposed to be doing that in our places of work and business and offices and stores. And that means that normally we're supposed to be actually returning there at night. We go in there every day anyway, and we're supposed to be doing a bidika. The beracha was covered in the home, but continue that checking process even in the places of business. This year, uniquely, madly, people haven't gone to their places of business, their workplaces, in days or weeks. So what is the protocol for those people in such a situation? So first of all, if a person happens to be currently frequenting his workplace safely, I'm going to say this with capitals, safely and privately, and he continues to do so, then he should do bidika. He should do checking that night in his workplace. He has a few options. He could either work a little late, and when the time comes, let's say at about 7:40 p.m., if he's still there, make the beracha there, start the checking there, come home. The beracha is covered. Beracha for the home is covered when you start with your workplace. Continue your checking at home and your cars, etc. Or if you went home earlier, you can go home, start your regular, do the beracha, the regular checking at home, and then return at night to your workplaces and places of business. If that is really difficult or nearly impossible, then you do that the next morning in your place of business before the time of ridding, which is 11:17 a.m. However, if you're like most people that have not been frequenting recently their places of business because of obvious reasons, and definitely not asking you to do that and continue with your safe schedule that you've created for yourselves, then we can rely on bitul, which is the proclamation that we said, the disowning proclamation. And we also can rely on the backup method that we use for our homes. And this is the way we, are able to sort of reclaim hametz after Pesach in our homes. As you know, many, if not most people, sell their hametz. They fill out an authorization form with the rabbi. And we have a very different synagogues. They're all very similar contracts, but have different contracts in which we cover all bases and make sure to sell. And if you just include your workplace in your in the authorization form, which I'm sure you're normally doing anyway, so we will cover that. The respective synagogue will cover that place of work, and you should be covered. And your anus, which means circumstances beyond your control, and Hachamim exempted you from going there and checking, and you're okay. Same thing goes with the synagogue, your karacha. I'm sure people, the committees and rabbis don't want you to go back into the synagogue, breaking in because you're panicking about your karacha. Leave it, have it in mind when you do the bitul, and it's included in the contract. So that's subject number one of halakha. Subject number two, I see a lot of females signed in with us, so it's less relevant to them, but you can hear and you can pass it on. It's Ta'anit Bechorot. As you know, we have a tradition of the firstborns being technically obligated to fast Eid Pesach to commemorate God's sparing of the firstborns in Yetziat Mitzrayim. But in recent number of centuries, we've become very lenient and found ways to get out of it, not because we're finding ways to get out of things, because it was a light, so to speak, fast to begin with, and therefore Hachamim wanting to first of all be compassionate to you and having enough strength for Pesach found a way for you to get out of it, and that is by participating in a Seudat Mitzvah. If you're lucky enough to have a Brit Milah or Bar Mitzvah, something that suffices. Otherwise, if you participate in a Siyum, the finishing of learning of a Masechet Gemara or Seder Mishnah, you can participate in that Seudat Mitzvah. That's what we do in the Batei Knesset every single morning, every single year on Eid Pesach in the morning, and that's how we get out of it. Guess what? You're not going to synagogue. You're not going to see anybody in person unless you're finishing something on your own. Sounds like, red flag. You're in a bit of a pickle. Hakam Shlomo Amar, the current chief rabbi of Yerushalayim and the former Sephardic chief rabbi of Eretz Israel, has come out with a very clear heter, a leniency, and has communicated it to us, to various community rabbis, and said that this year as an exception, don't get used to it, we are allowed to participate in this siyum in the same way we are communicating right now, and that is through a live stream video Zoom. I guess everyone just please mute out and mute your computer, your video. Thank you. And there are numerous synagogues that are going to be accommodating people with a Zoom video, live stream video, and you may participate without any guilt and compunction whatsoever. It's kosher. It is an exception, but to rely upon. And again, this was looked at as of the lighter fast that Hachamim were very lenient with. And a person can definitely rely on this and participate. As another option, again, if I can ask everyone to mute out if you're not muted already, as another option, one, if he's studying and last second just wants to do it on his own, you can study even a Masechet Mishnah, which is easier, real legitimate studying, not just reading English translation, and do his own siyum. That's usually less recommended, but it can be done in a difficult situation. This certainly is considered to be a difficult situation. Okay, that's subject number 2, siyum. By the way, at the end of the halachot, I'll give a few more halachot, maybe another 5 minutes. We'll allow to unmute, and you can mic it up for questions just for a couple of minutes, okay, if there are any. So those are really a couple of unique situations this year due to, the madness that's going on around us. Let's just talk about Eid Pesach in general. It is Eid Pesach, which is the day of, but before, which is this coming Tuesday, is the most unique day of the year in that there is no other Erev day before, whether it's Shabbat or holiday, that has so many halachot and laws that are associated with it. Let's just go through some of them, and they all apply this year. Some a little less than others. Like, for instance, there's a prohibition of melacha, of work. Again, most people are not going to be going to work. That's not an issue. In terms of doing work, any work that has relevance to the holiday is completely allowed. And the reason why there is a quasi Yom Tov status on this day is because the Korban Pesach was offered by every single adult Jew, and by Hasot Yom and on, and therefore became a Yom Tov and remained the permanent status of Yom Tov. We made the whole day Yom Tov, and also just in order to have people refrain from other activities, they can prepare for all the necessities for Eid Pesach. So we have this idea of not doing melacha, which also means that a person's going to take a haircut safely, do it before Hasot, definitely. Any other melacha that a person might be involved in that's not necessary for the holiday per se, refrain from, whether that means crocheting something or painting or writing something creatively or building something, etc. refrain from. For the holiday, it's perfectly okay. So there's an idea of not doing melacha. There's an idea of refraining or not being allowed to eat actual masa. When you say actual masa, it means the type of masa that you can fulfill that night, seder night, and that is a masa that's hamosi masa. And the reason is because Hakanim wanted to make a break between permissible masa, meaning the entire year, you might not eat it, but if you want to have a nice, a whole wheat matzah cracker with your, whatever it is, because you think it's healthy, but that was optional. But it's obligatory at night, and they don't want to blur optional and obligatory. So they wanted to make this mid-gray area day where it's prohibited. It's not yet obligatory and not even optional. And that mid, it's just a matter of hours, the Erev Pesach hours, not the night before, just the daylight hours. You can't have anything that has to do with whatever matzah you can fulfill at the night, which any hamosi matzah. Sfaradim can have egg matzah, because Sfaradim say mezonot on it. You can't fulfill the mitzvah of egg matzah, so you can have egg matzah. Hacham Vajah is strict, and he said anything that's made with real matzah meal as an ingredient, you can't have. So if you're Hacham Vajah follower, which I am, it means that watch out any matzah cookies and cakes that have matzah meal per se shouldn't be had at Pesach. And then as you get to 2.5 hours within the seasonal hours within sunset, so you're talking about let's say 4:45 and on, one should not have 2 ounces or more of even mezonot egg matzah to keep appetite for the seder. Okay, so I think we covered the halachot that I wanted to cover and the applications for this very unique year that we're in right now. If anybody has a question, you may indicate now, or just unmute yourself and ask me the question on halachic matters that have to do with Erev Pesach, preparations and leading up to. And otherwise, I will go to the second phase. I have a hand from Vivian Gindi.
Hi, Rabbi. I wanted to ask about girls with Ta'anit
One of my question askers. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about girls and Ta'anit Bechara.
Not obligated. There is a custom, to sort of bring home food for your elder girls to eat from. It's not really that effective to do such a thing, and not a real rigid obligation, and certainly this year, not something to worry about.
But how come? Because weren't the girls also involved in Makat Bechara in Mitzrayim?
According to some, because of that, and that's why some have that custom, and because there was a member of every household that among the Misrim that died, so we were spared. Every household was spared to some extent. But still, when Hachamim instituted this fast, they instituted it for technical, so to speak, bechorot. But certainly this year, any custom to be strict would not have to be abided by.
Okay.
Sarah Zaytuni.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
So for the holiday, I'm going to be sleeping by my parents' house, and my husband and I are selling our apartment, but we might come back for Chol Hamoed. So, do I have to check all over my apartment if I'm going to sell my fridge and my freezer, my cabinet?
Absolutely. If somebody is coming back to their place of dwelling on Pesach, you treat it as if you are there for Pesach. In any case, right now, the law of the traveler, so to speak, does not apply because we're already within 30 days. So everybody has to have the equal approach to their houses or apartments, and that is full bidika.
So I've never actually been in Brooklyn for Passover. So how extensive do you need to get when cleaning all the closets?
The same as every year, although the pre-Pesach cleaning should always be very extensive, A to Z. Whoever's doing the checking, let's say your husband, checks the night of Bidika after his Beracha as if nothing was checked, so to speak. And therefore, he's got to do a thorough check. It's not a symbolic walk around the house. It's a real checking. And he's got to, the only thing that he would be exempt from is movable things if they were definitely checked before the night. For instance, pants and coat pockets, bags, pocketbooks, etc. He wouldn't have to do that again in the checking. However, anything that's fixed, which means The floors, the cabinets, the drawers, the crevices and cracks all over the house, basement, the attic, all have to be checked thoroughly. Of course, you put the 10 traditional pieces around, but he's not just looking for those. He's looking primarily for everything else possible that he can possibly find. And the more you check, the better. It's not a symbolic, walk around the house.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Vivi Gindi with another question, or is that hand from before?
Quick question, Rabbi Eli
Yeah.
Meadow. How are you?
Amy says yes.
Could you confirm whether or not I can do Edoy on frosted glass and glass platters that may have some paint on them?
Okay, so what Amy's referring to is that normally glass is, you don't have to kosher. Frosted glass is in the clear also, but painted glass is somewhat more problematic in terms of not being considered to be glass. That hag'ala process, hot water scourging and therefore releasing taste, is effective on it. And if something needed iru, which means pouring hot water over it, because that's the way it absorbed, so that is eligible and effective for painted glass platters and the like. It is.
Excellent, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, if no other questions, I'm going to start the second phase, which is really a thought that I wanted to bring you through. And it's one single thought, but I think this single thought is, to me, it's powerful, and it'll take us through some history. It'll take us into the Haggadah, and it will take us, I think, in modern day into our very situation right now. So let's keep muted, and this is just going to be me talking to you. So there are a lot of incredible, profound statements in the Haggadah, and everyone has their favorites. For me, there's been one, I'm going to say, for my entire adulthood, that it's struck a chord in me more than any other, and it brings chills up my spine more than any other, and that is towards the very end of the Haggadah. In fact, it's right before the Hallel part, which is the end of the Haggadah. There's a line that we say, we all say it, Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. It's mentioned in the Mishnah, it's authentic. And I'll say it in Hebrew and I'll translate it into English, and that's where I'll begin. Bechol dor vador hayav adam lirot et asmo ki'ilu hu yasa min Misraim. In every generation, a person is obligated. Lirot is a version. There's another version which I'll discuss later. Lirot is actually not our version, Ashkenazi version, but I'll go with it right now. In every generation, a person is hayav. In Hebrew, that means obligated to see himself as if he came out of Misraim. The paragraph then goes on to quote the pasuk that we respond to the Ben Hacham, we mentioned earlier in the Haggadah, in the Torah, when your child will ask you, what is this? And you answer him, we say in the Haggadah, not just our forefathers were taken out and redeemed, even we were, as it says, Ve'otanu hosi misham, and he took us out of there. Here's what has to bother me and really, I think, disturb you as well. And that is the word hayav. The word hayav means obligated. Now, I'd feel a little more comfortable if that word hayav was used any place else in the Haggadah. In other words, we do have obligations. We have an obligation to tell the story. We have obligations of what we're doing on this side of the table. We have certain minimum mentionings and bits of information that we obligated to convey. And yet nowhere in the Haggadah does it say the word hayav, obligated. And here, with an idea that seems to be conceptual, it seems to be theoretical, it seems to be part of our imagination. A person has to see himself, as if he came out of Egypt, whatever that means. The Haggadah says hayav, you're obligated. And obligated means if I don't do it, I'm doing something wrong. And at first glance, you have to take issue with that, because I dare to say that most people are transgressing on something on Leil Seder, to look at yourself as if you came out of Egypt, you have to have a very vivid imagination. You have to be very dreamy, and otherwise we're saying that you did not fulfill an obligation. How could Hachamim charge our imaginations with an obligation? How can Hachamim even speak about something that is seemingly a concept, an idea, and tell us we're obligated, especially because it obviously has depth to it, but on the surface level, it doesn't have real meaning because it's not true. Because we didn't come out of Mitzrayim. Because they came out of Mitzrayim, depending on your count of history, 3,300, closer to 3,500 years ago. So you didn't come out of Egypt. Get over it. What does this mean? You're obligated to look at yourself. Now, this is a conceptual idea, and rabbis can give different classes in Derashot on it. Well, how do I fulfill my obligation? Is it just a free-for-all? You're welcome to fill in the blank. It's something that I always think about, and something that I've thought about it over the year and developed different thoughts in my mind, never ceases to charge me, infuse me with faith and inspiration and hope. And I'm going to tell you why. So let's talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. And let me talk about the fact that Yetziat Mitzrayim was definitely an exodus from Egypt. It was definitely an incredible favor that God did for us, an act of chesed. He freed a slave nation from servitude. He did it through supernatural events, through miracles like we've never seen before. And God did that to the eyes of the world. And in and of itself, it's just an incredible memory, and God showed his might. He showed his endless ability to change nature and to manipulate and to control the forces of the world, and to mete out justice and punish the evil. And of course, he kept his promise to us. And he did all of that, and yet, Yetziat Mitzrayim is not an end in and of itself. On its own, self-contained, it does not have, I will say, enough value or the value that we need if everything would stop there. And you're going to tell me, fine, you're right. It's not an end in and of itself. It's a means to an end. And we had Matan Torah afterwards. And I'm going to tell you, yes, we received the Torah. We became the nation that follows God's Torah. And still, Matan Torah is not an end in and of itself, and only a means to an end. You'll tell me about the Mishkan, where God's divine presence dwelled among us. And we were experiencing the highest level of relationship you ever can with God. And I will still tell you that the Mishkan is not an end in and of itself, but a means to an end. And you'll tell me Yetziat Mitzrayim was to get into the land of Israel and experience our sovereignty in the land. And I'll agree with you 100% and still tell you that is not the end. Because Yetziat Mitzrayim was the start of something that needs to end in our objective of existence on earth as human mankind, but especially as a people, as a Jewish nation. And that objective is for the name of God, for the existence of God to be understood, accepted, and realized by all of mankind. The purpose of our being as a people is to one day see a day, a great day, a messianic day, a day of redemption, where the whole world practices monotheism and has a simple and clear and single faith in God, for us to carry out God's will, for us to be rewarded for doing so, and to experience that redemption. That is the purpose, the end game of Yetziat Mitzrayim. That is a journey that we started, and that is a journey that we never ended. We started that journey through the desert. And in fact, even I know an incredible class that Rabbi Soloveitchik always brings in my ears, where when Moshe Rabbeinu told his father-in-law, we're now traveling. He was talking about a messianic march to get to our end game. And we traveled on that journey through the desert and we got into Israel, but it wasn't over then. There were centuries after, in the days of Shoftim, where our observance and dedication to God waxed and waned, went up and down. And we finally reached the point of David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech, and the building of a Bet HaMikdash, the apex, the pinnacle of our existence, and we were almost there. We were at the cusp. We were almost at the end of the journey. Tragedy struck. Our kingdom was split. We were wayward. We started worshiping and not worshiping God and becoming drawn into the paganism of our surroundings. And there, centuries that followed, during the time of the king, we took one step forward and two steps back. We were constantly backsliding. And that mission, that march, that journey seemed to be going nowhere. And we were close a few times. Hachamim said this one could have been Mashiach. That one, Hiskiyahu HaMelech of note, could have and should have been Mashiach, but he wasn't. And so the march never ended. And then it came to an absolute crash. The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. We found ourselves out of our land, and our march regressed. It was stifled. It was ended, God forbid, so to speak, seemingly ended. And we have spent, depending on your historical count, either the last 2,400 or the last close to 2,600 years marching uphill. I'm including during the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, because that was a disastrous time period for us, with very little sovereignty either. We have been on a journey, on a march since then, century after century, country after country, continent after continent. We have been marching uphill with great difficulty, but with incredible determination. Every single century, every single place, every single land that we've been in, from Babylon to the Sephardic countries, to the Ashkenazic countries in Western Europe, and after that to the Eastern European countries and the Middle Eastern countries, every place of dwelling for us was a march onto a continuation of our journey to see our objective and our purpose of existence. Conley Mike out. Every single Jew who died on Kiddush Hashem was on that march. Every single woman who has lit Shabbat candles was joining on that journey. Every man who's ever put on tefillin was marching forward on that final objective of ours. Every single community that remained loyal and dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every Bet Knesset that was built, every prayer that was said, every Bet Midrash, every Torah that was learned, every Hesed organization, every single act of obedience and subservience to our God has been part of a great march. Ladies and gentlemen, Bechol Dor Vador, every single generation, every single Jew must look at himself as if he came out of Mitzrayim because he did. Maybe not physically, maybe not stepping out of Egypt, but certainly joining the same journey and the same march that has left Egypt and has never ceased. We are all on that march, and we continue to be on that march. It is a literal march, and therefore it is a literal statement. And therefore Hachamim tell us, Hayav, don't you dare think for a moment that you're not part of it, and that everything that you do can either adversely or positively affect the digression of that march, the regression of that march, God forbid, or the positive continuation and perpetuation of that incredible march. You are part of it, and it continues in our time. I would dare to say that every Jew that marched to a gas chamber, al Kiddush Hashem, and knew who he was on that march. And every single soldier, from the unofficial fighters who had, from the time of the independence of the state of Israel, to every IDF soldier that holds his head high up today and knows the cause for which he's fighting, is marching on that march. Our community is on that march, and every single Jew is on that march. We are there. We're at the cusp. We can practically taste it, and we can't stop our legs from moving on that march. And we're hayav, says the Haggadah, not to forget that. Because until the mission is over, it's not over, and we have to get there. But I want to reflect back on one word. I said, lir'ot et atzmo, which means to see yourself, But the Rambam's version, and what Sfaradim recite, is leharot et atzmo, to show himself, to demonstrate with himself, to exhibit something in himself which shows that you are on the march. That means there's a proactive nature to the march. That means that you have to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I'll tell you that there have been many classes that I've heard about the corona phenomenon and the terrible situation that we find ourselves in as a nation. And I'll tell you that they've all been true as far as I'm concerned. And God, in his infinite wisdom, has many simultaneous reasons that are all interacting now for why he's doing this. But I have to say, and I'm not trying to sound messianic, but that if we don't believe that the number one reason that we're still on the march and haven't reached our destination yet, and the number one reason that Hachamim tell us and history teaches us that we haven't gotten there yet, which is sinat hanam, and lack of unity, if you don't believe that has to be one of the reasons that we're in this right now, then your eyes are closed. And that's all there is to it. And how much facilitating has God done in these past few weeks for Jews to somehow come together? The march has stalled for thousands of years because we haven't fulfilled this objective, and the march will only come to a clear and victorious end when we have overcome this incredible deficiency of ours. Many advocate havat hanam, loving, stop the sinat hanam. I've heard speeches and classes since I'm a child until now, and I will not at all, God forbid, be cynical and facetious about any of them. But there's been a lot of talk and not enough action, because in my very humble opinion, and you're welcome to hear some of my Tisha B'Av classes online, because this is all I speak about, we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. And I'm going to be very frank, like I like to be, and very clear, and very open, and very blatant about it. We love to a limit, to an extent, with limitations. Because once someone is not our philosophy, is not our position, once someone disturbs us, once another Jew angers us, once another Jew is doing something that just wants me to yell out at him, once another Jew is not holding my same position, once another Jew in my eyes is just way off the derech, so to speak, well, that's where the love sort of ends. At best, there's tolerance. If not, there's something worse. And the delusional attitude has been of the modern Jew and going back, that I will fully love when that person gets his act together, or when he shares my philosophy, or when he starts doing it this way. It's absolutely delusional, because it's not going to happen. Not everyone's going to come together in unison and have the same culture and the same outlook and the same hashkafa and the same philosophy and the same approach and the same political opinions and the same. It's just not going to happen. Yes, I am not advocating a free-for-all. I'm advocating everyone should have a position, take a position, believe in it, have a hashkafa. I do. I'm willing to argue for it and fight for it and debate about it. But that should not be confused with lack of love. And I'll be even more blatant. Here we are, Corona. So you see someone from the Hasidic community who's doing something wrong. He's still going to synagogue and classes and the mikveh, and you're angry. Okay, you could be angry. You could be angry. Maybe not even tolerate it. But do you want that guy on the march with you, next to you, hand in hand with you, or not? Do you love him or not? Look at Israeli politics, the left, the right. It's disgraceful, quite frankly. And you're rooting for somebody. I am also, obviously. But do you want the person that you're rooting against on the march with you? Do you love him as is unconditionally? Of course you want him to improve. You think he's doing wrong, you want him to change. But do you pray for him? Are you concerned about him? Do you want him to be an Avid Hashem? Or you just hajj with the guy? And we can go on with examples in our very community. With the black and white nonsense. In my book, it's prohibited to even use these terms. But we have no choice, because we don't know how to label and describe and identify people anymore. Every group, every shul, everyone's got to have some kind of label. You can have a philosophy. You should have a philosophy. You should believe in something. But if that is going to limit whatsoever the way you feel, your concern, your prayer, your love, your hope for that person, regardless of philosophy and position, you're missing the boat. You're missing it. You're not sharing. You're on your own march. You need to demonstrate something because you're not marching by yourself. You're marching with 14.7 million, whatever it is, number of Jews. That's who you're marching with, whether you like it or not. And you'll never get to your destination unless you march with them. If Corona is not teaching us that, we can forget about everything else. Among everything else it's supposed to be teaching us. If Seder night is not teaching us that, we can forget about everything else. To me, to all of us, to Hachamim, to our Torah, there's no greater message. Changing our attitude, reversing ourselves, adjusting the way we see and look at people, not adjusting what we believe in, but adjusting the way emotionally and intellectually we want fellow Jews to be part of our general team. Hayav Adam, a person is obligated to demonstrate that he is on this historical march towards redemption with every single other Jew. You must demonstrate it. Sfaradim say that out of their mouth on the Seder night. We must look at every person of every culture, of every religion, religious level or lack thereof, of every political view, Sfaradi, Ashkenazi, Hasidic, black and white, and everything in between. As somebody that you pray for, you're concerned for, you love, and you want to join you on that march. It's only then that we get the point in modern times of all our difficulties. It's only then that we will really be able to fulfill the hayav, the obligation on Seder night in that one sentence. And it's only then that we will be able to take the millennia and century-long march that seems unending and once and for all bring it to a close, end it, and bring on our redemption in the times of Mashiach very speedily. Amen. I wish you all a safe, healthy, happy, and unified Chag Pesach. Thank you for joining.